Picture a highway, cars are screaming past at 70, 80 miles an hour in both directions. And right there, standing on the double yellow line in the dead center of the road is a person, just standing there.
It's a terrifying image. Your first instinct is to think, what is wrong with them? You assume they're delusional or maybe they have a death wish. It doesn't make sense to the rational mind.
Exactly. We shake our heads and call them crazy. But today we're going to flip that perspective. Because what if they aren't crazy? What if they're just stuck?
That's the core of what we're discussing today. We are looking at this phenomenon of the middle of the road. It's a metaphor for how so many of us live our lives, paralyzed not by insanity, but by fear. We think the middle is the safe zone. It feels like the neutral ground where we don't have to commit. But the reality, it's actually the most dangerous place you can possibly be.
That's a heavy statement. We usually associate the middle with balance, right? Compromise, keeping the peace. But you're saying that standing in the middle is actually a trap?
Absolutely. Think about why that person is on the yellow line. Maybe they started a journey, they stepped out, but then they saw the traffic, the chaos of life, and they froze. They figured if I stop right here, I won't get hit by the traffic coming from the left or the right. They are trying to appease both sides.
Oh, I see where you're going. It's the people pleaser's dilemma. You're trying to keep one group happy, maybe your spiritual convictions or your moral compass, while simultaneously trying to satisfy a world that frankly doesn't care about those things.
Precisely. It's an exhausting way to live. You're trying to keep God pleased while also trying to fit in with a crowd that is looking at a completely different map. There's this old piece of wisdom, something a father might tell his son, that really resonates here. It's about who you surround yourself with.
Like the old saying, show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Basically, yes. The wisdom is this. Be careful who you pick, because if you hang around them long enough, one of two things happens. Either they become more like you, or, and this is the more likely scenario, you become more like them.
That is profound and honestly a little scary. Because if you're standing in the middle of the road trying to hold hands with people going in opposite directions, you're going to get torn apart.
You will. And that's why the text we're looking at today calls this state bondage, not balance. When you try to live in that middle ground, you start watering down who you are. You quiet your faith so you don't look weird. You say yes to things you know are wrong just to avoid conflict. You become a shadow of yourself.
It reminds me of the deer in the headlights. We've all seen that, right? The animal just freezes.
That is the perfect analogy. Think about the biology of that moment. The deer sees the threat, it freezes, it panics, and then what happens? It usually bolts in a random direction out of pure terror, and that is usually when it gets hit.
So the hesitation causes the accident.
Exactly. When we stay in the safe middle too long, we are just waiting for disaster. We wait until the pressure builds up so high that we move out of panic instead of purpose. And let's be honest, decisions made out of panic are almost always the wrong decisions.
That's a really critical distinction, moving out of panic versus moving out of purpose. But why is it so hard to just pick a lane? Why do we linger on that yellow line?
Fear. It always comes back to fear. And usually it's a very specific kind, the fear of what other people will think. We are terrified of being judged. If I go to the right, the people on the left will mock me. If I go to the left, the people on the right will reject me. So I stay in the middle and hope no one notices.
But here's the kicker, and I love how blunt this is. You can't control what other people think anyway.
You can't. And frankly, what other people think is none of your business. There's a reason we weren't given the ability to read minds. It would destroy us. If you are living your life trying to manage the perceptions of everyone around you, you aren't living. You're performing.
So let's talk about the consequences. We've established that the middle is mentally exhausting, but practically speaking, what happens if you just stay there?
Well, to go back to our highway metaphor, sooner or later a wide load truck is coming through. Life doesn't stop just because you did. A crisis will hit, a major change will happen, or time will simply run out. If you are still standing on that yellow line when the wide load of life comes through, you're going to get crushed.
That's a sobering thought. It's not just that you miss out on the destination, you actually get run over by the indecision.
Right. And there's a spiritual dimension to this too. The source material references a line from the book of James. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. You can't build a stable life on an unstable foundation. If you're split between two worlds, between comfort and calling, you're double-minded. You literally have two minds pulling against each other. You can't go forward.
So how do we break the paralysis? Because I think a lot of listeners might realize, wow, I'm currently standing on the yellow line. How do you take that first step?
You have to accept that you might lose something to gain something better. You have to step out of the safe zone. The most beautiful part of this concept is the idea of guidance in motion.
Guidance in motion? Unpack that for me.
Sure, it's very hard to steer a parked car, right? You have to be moving for the steering wheel to actually change your direction. Many of us are waiting for a sign or a divine voice or a perfect roadmap before we move. But often the open doors and the right place, right time moments only happen after you start moving.
That's huge. We want the guarantee before we take the risk. But you're saying the risk is the price of admission for the guidance.
Exactly. You have to believe that as you move, you will be guided. But if you stay in the middle, obsessing over what you might lose, losing friends, losing status, losing comfort, you never get to see what you could have gained.
It's interesting because the middle feels like a place of control. I'm controlling the situation by not committing. But hearing you talk, it sounds like the middle is actually where you have the least control. You're just a sitting duck.
You are completely vulnerable. You've given up your agency to fear. Taking a step, picking a lane, that is an act of reclaiming your life. It's saying, I am going this way, regardless of who follows me.
And that requires a certain level of thickness of skin, doesn't it?
It does. It requires you to be okay with being misunderstood. It requires you to be okay with people on the other side of the road thinking you're wrong. But the alternative is to live a life that is diluted, a life that is lukewarm. And nobody wants to reach the end of their days and realize they lived a lukewarm life just to be polite.
Diluted. That's a great word for it. It's like watering down a drink until it has no flavor left.
And that's what compromise does to the soul. It waters down your convictions until you don't even recognize yourself anymore. You're just a mirror reflecting whatever is around you rather than a light source.
So the call to action here is pretty clear. It's get out of the middle.
Yes, today, not tomorrow. Make a decision. Even if your voice shakes, even if your legs are trembling, step off the yellow line. Choose a direction that aligns with your values, with your faith in God, with your purpose.
And stop worrying about the cars speeding by.
Let them speed by. They aren't going where you're going. You have your own lane. And believe me, the view is a lot better when you aren't constantly looking over your shoulder in panic.
It really shifts the focus from what if I get hurt to where am I actually going? It changes the narrative from survival to destination.
That's it. Don't live divided. Don't live stuck between fear and faith. The middle of the road is a poor place to walk, a poor place to drive, and a terrible place to live.
I think that's the perfect place to wrap this up. It's a challenge for all of us. I'm thinking about areas in my own life where I've been hovering on that yellow line, just waiting for permission to move.
We all have them. The key is to recognize it, admit it's not safe, and take that step.
Well, for everyone listening, take a look at your feet. Are you on the sidewalk or are you standing in traffic? It might be time to move. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure. Keep moving forward.